Hello, good evening. I am Kalum from the Rolistes Podcast, a proud member of the RPG Academy network. This is my very first time streaming on Twitch, so please be patient with me. I hope you are hearing my voice at the moment. But had a good idea. In order to do that very first live Twitch streaming, I thought if I had experts with me, well, they could tell me if I'm doing anything wrong, and we could all learn in the process. So tonight I am joined by Little Red Dot and Scratticus. Let me... Yes, everybody should hear you now, hopefully.
Hey, hey!
Hello.
Oh, hi!
Well, ladies first. Little Red Dot, could you introduce yourself to the RPG Academy network?
Sure. Hi, I am Chelsea, also known as Little Red Dot. You can call me a slew of things. I answer by Chelsea and Red and Dot and Little Red and, a hodgepodge of all those things. So just, I'm sure I'll answer. But yeah, I do a ton of tabletop RPG streamed live on Twitch on multiple different channels. I also play in a podcast called North by Northquest, which is an actual play 5e Dungeons and Dragons storytelling podcast. So that's what I do. And so I'm here tonight. I'm excited.
So remind me, Dot, unlike myself and Scratticus, who's got big puffy eyes because it's 2 in the morning where we are, you are based in the US?
I am. Yeah, I'm actually located in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Scratticus, you come from the lesser RPG academy, sort of, the other academy, which is not as great as ours, of course.
Yes, the Scratticus Academy. My focus is on bringing new people and returning players to D&D and making it as inclusive and welcoming as possible, especially for those who struggle with social situations. We've been doing pretty well for ourselves over there. Loving the new sub bombs, loving seeing all the familiar faces in chat. It's all good fun.
Okay, brilliant. Well, let's jump into tonight's topic, which is of actual plays. They can be recorded, they can be live streamed. What is an actual play? Any of you two want to have a go first?
I mean, Scrat, do you wanna take that away, there, headmaster?
It's a funny one, really, isn't it? Because pretty much anytime you're playing a game, you're actually playing.
Right.
So I guess actual play is more of a title for games which are streamed live,
right,
rather than recorded.
And I think it's important to know that's all kinds of games, not just D&D. Yep. Right, which I think is what we go to first, and not just any kind of game that is streamed live is considered actual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well done, Professor Chelsea.
Thanks, Headmaster Scratticus.
If you discuss with the opposite of that would be a discussion show where people discuss the theories or the latest game coming out. So an actual play.
Yeah. So it's not your reviews, it's not your Q&As, it's not commentary shows and those kinds of things. It's a show where people play a game live. So if you're not playing a game, it's not an actual play.
Any favorite actual play show to recommend beside your own?
Got to give a shout out to Encounter Roleplay.
Yeah.
I think most of us started over there one way or another.
Yeah, they do good work. I'll give a shout out. I mean, I'm gonna second that ERP because I love them. But Roll For It is doing, that's ROLL with the number 4 IT. Roll For It. Their shows are just great, and I absolutely adore their Layla, which is kind of their headliner show. They have a Layla the Vampire Slayer show, and it's just amazing. So
yeah, I really love how they've brought another one of my fandoms onto that recently as well with Random Tuesday. Like,
yeah.
My
Yeah.
fandoms are merging.
Well, I guess the most obvious actual play show out there, well, to name two, would be Critical Role and Maze Arcana.
Yep.
And RPG Academy Network oblige, if I speak French. Well, we got a number of excellent actual play shows at the RPG Academy. I hope I won't forget too many of them, but we got Lawful and Orderly on this channel, Twitch channel. We've got Redemption, which is a Star Wars show. Shadow of the Cabal, Legend of the Five Rings. We used to have She's a Super Geek, which is one of my favorite, but no, has become a frenemy as they move to Misdirected Mark network. Swallows of the South. Oh, there's too many and more joined recently. They're gonna be super mad at me. Just go check the RPG Academy network. There's a number of good shows there to check. There's some episodes of mine which are actual play, but so far no episode of the Rolistes Podcast was strictly actual play. It's not live, it's recorded. Well, most of the show I name are recorded. Usually what I do, I slice it with bits of interviews and discussion, so you have a bit of the actual play and then a bit of discussion, etc. So it's a bit segmented. But why do you two actually started producing and participating to actual plays?
Well, I didn't actually start in actual play. I started in podcasting. So my first interaction with doing any kind of entertainment based tabletop role play was with the podcast, and it was actually Remley Farr, who's in chat, who was like, you know what? Because I started my Twitch channel actually as a cosplay channel where I was building cosplay, and he was like, you've got a Twitch channel now, you should come over and play with my friends over at Encounter Roleplay in this viewer game. And after that, it was like a snowball effect. I've been doing this like just a little over a year, and it's just been one of those things that just happened. I can't get enough of it.
And for me, I spent several years. I was one of those factory workers that put a poster up on the factory wall saying, "Hey guys, who wants to come around to my place and play D&D?" And it sat there for months and months and months. And then finally, I got 4 people, and we all sat and played D&D together. And you know what? The players didn't suit the DM, and we tried to make it work for about 2 years. But mostly, we all turned up for the food because Alice is a great cook. And then I tried also with Encounter Roleplay. My first game was an Encounter Roleplay, and I had a great time. And then
was that with me? It was.
No. You were one of my first interactions. Yes.
But we played together.
We did play together.
Okay,
that was in the Shoals of Borigard, which Rem in chat. He's getting all the shout outs today. DM.
I know.
But my first game was actually with Encounter Josh as the DM, and I can tell you my first action in D&D on Twitch was to enter a bar, see a tense situation, uproot a table that was nailed down and throw it at someone, and started a bar fight by throwing a table at someone, and spent the entire bar fight mine-sweeping drinks and occasionally like uppercutting someone. It was great.
A true champion.
It was amazing. Like.
Did you said the inn in fire?
No. The inn was owned by a dragon, so she put a stop to our bullshit after a while. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But then what? I suppose another question is, why do we keep coming back to actual play?
Yeah, that's really it. Because it's almost like a little bit like a drug. At least it was for me once I got started. And now I don't just stream just D&D, because that's, like I said, where I kind of started it all. And now I'm like deep diving into as many different systems as I can. I know Scrat is really into that right now too. And I think what brings it back for me is it's the storytelling piece, right? I love to tell stories. I've always loved to tell stories. That's why I hold a degree in acting and all that kind of stuff. And it took me a few years to realize I wasn't really happy with the whole like stage film thing, and I couldn't really figure it out. And for the first time in a decade, I'm completely fulfilled as an actor and somebody or a storyteller, really. Whether I'm DMing or I'm playing in somebody's story, just the collaborative nature of what we do is just enthralling. And it brings me back over and over again.
For me, it's a double-edged sword. Not in that it's double-edged and hurts you. I mean, it's a sword with two sides. You can stab lots with it. It's, for a start off, what we're doing right now with chat. Like, we've got chat in and we are interacting with them. We've got a live audience, which is something that I thrive on. Not only because of the interaction, because I'm a real social monkey. I did one of them like personality tests. I came out as 97% extroverted. Like, give me all the attention. But like also when chat interacts with the games, like it does on our shows, like it does on Encounter Roleplay shows and some of the other shows that do chat interactions via donations or however, I love the challenge of having to improv like that, you know, like, oh well, you know what, the closest NPC to the player dies. They were critical to your entire plot. Okay, well, let's go. You know,
right? I mean, Scrat and I talk all the time. I kind of joke that he's like my brother at this point. He's like my RPG brother. And every day I'm like, Scrat, I don't know what I'm doing on my show today. He's like, cool, let's talk about it. And then we don't end up talking about it at all. And so I would suspect that about 95% of the time we come to each other, we're like, help. And then we don't do any work, and we both come to the table and improvise the shit out of the scenario.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I literally make streams out of my prep now because otherwise I don't do any. Like, some of the games I've done recently, I've literally sat down at the table and gone, okay, player one, where are we? Like,
yeah, tell us. Oh, yeah, completely improvised game. Those are fun. How meta of you.
Amazing.
The game of yours I joined was quite improvised too. I think you had some regrets just before we started, thinking, okay, you are a barn raising. What was it gonna happen?
It turned out really wholesome. It was a really wholesome stream. They all stopped like there's someone was trying to sell some stuff off, like, you know, and they didn't beat him up. They talked him round, and they all got together at the end and had a party. It was amazing. And yeah,
that's probably the most wholesome thing that's ever happened on your channel ever.
Yeah, probably.
Everything else is just tears and emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I've got a slogan to live up to. It's, yeah.
Right, yeah.
You're right when you said it's a bit quotation mark dangerous, because since I started doing them, and it was a bit random initially, I did not want it to do actual play on my own show. It's just I happened to record a game at a convention. It was Game of Thrones. It sounded quite okay, quite nice. It was fun to edit, and then I wanted to showcase French games. So of course, if I'm showcasing a game, I want to have an actual player of that game. But now when I play games, I'm like, I don't have the time to record them, edit them, but I would like to record and edit them all, because each time I'm like, oh, I love that game. I just wish I would have that documented and something I could go back to and remember that game. Because it's funny when you re-listen to something you played, actually there's a lot of stuff which happened I do not remember from those games, and stuff which are quite awesome and I'm very happy with.
Yeah, totally. There's something that I'm looking at trying to figure out a better system for, is like editing. I don't do very much editing at all. Literally, all I do is I take my video, I trim the start and the end off, and I upload it to YouTube. And I'm like a week behind and growing. There's just not enough hours in the day, you know. Like,
I'm so jealous. The streaming is easy. You just put your thing and you're doing like there's no editing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's way different than a podcast. And you know, one of the things that I'm actually trying as a streamer not to put my stuff to YouTube, to not prioritize my YouTube as the exact same content outlet as Twitch, because you can come back to Twitch and watch the videos up to, like, I think 90 days now is the way that they do it.
Oh, they extended it. It used to be like 30 days, didn't it?
Oh, did they? I thought it was 90. I can't remember. But there is a time limit on those, so you still should put them to YouTube. But I personally think oftentimes as streamers, you're putting the same content in all the places versus using your YouTube outlet as a different place, like for real videos, like something you actually record and edit, versus, you know, just being another post board for the same thing you put on Twitch. Like, I personally am trying to start my own YouTube, and I'm trying to activate it that way and not.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm old school in my entertainment, and I believe that there's something really, really interesting and incredible about the idea that, what is that saying? History is made by those who show up. So if that's the case, if we do a live show, there's something about it being live and being there in that moment to like be a part of it. And I think oftentimes, and I know not everybody can catch it, but then there's that excitement of like having to be there. And if I'm not there, then I'm going to miss something. And I think that makes things exciting for the audience. And when they know that, well, in 24 hours, I'm going to get a video, so I don't have to tune in, it defeats the whole purpose of a live show. You know, it just totally defeats the entire purpose of a live show.
Totally agree with you.
You're right, and I'm a bit frustrated by something like Critical Role, because I find it's very impressive in terms of a community, but at the same time, actual play as something I consume, it doesn't really match my availability. I prefer things in audio, and I started listening to Critical Role, the podcast version they got out there. It's very lightly edited, but for me, it's not the same format. It's not as good as other stuff put out there.
It's because they don't record it to be a podcast.
No.
You know, somebody that does both, there is a defining difference in how, and I go to a table and record for and play for a podcast than it is when I sit down behind a camera and play. They're just different. And you're not the only person that said that. I also think the Critical Role, and for my taste, gets a little crunchy. But that's okay, because I think a lot of people like the rules. They like the kind of thickness. It's also 4 hours. Nobody listens to a 4-hour podcast, right? We like our podcast in like hours shorter. It's meant to be a condensed thing. So I think it's just different. And I think a lot of people, I had this conversation actually over on Wizards channel one night. We were doing a Q&A from Learn by Play. And somebody brought up that was like, well, why does Critical Role have all the fans? And there are all these other amazing shows out there and nobody watches them and they don't have the same numbers. You have to realize that in the entertainment industry, there are always anomalies. And I think Critical Role is one of those. It is an anomaly in what it is. But I think at the same time, we also have to appreciate it for what it is, because Critical Role has rekindled the gaming community to new people. It's taught new people about it, and it has opened up multiple forms of entertainment for people to be able to do tabletop games. And just like in the film industry, you have an indie market and you have the like mainstream blockbuster. They're your mainstream blockbuster. They're always going to be there. But without them, people don't go to the movies.
Yeah,
and they don't go see, you know?
It's kind of to actual play. It's Critical Role is to actual play. I think what Harry Potter might be seen for young adult novels or even reading in general is that thing everybody's talking about. Everybody goes to it, and you might like it, you might not like it, but it did bring a huge audience, and maybe not everyone, but even if I don't know, a quarter of all these people have the curiosity to go and fetch something else, that's a huge number of people, and that's doing a tremendous benefit to the hobby. At least it's my opinion. And I mean, I come from a place and time when I picked up my first RPG book. I didn't even knew what was a role-playing game. I bought it because it was Star Wars. There was no one around to explain it to me. I had no idea what it was like to do that. And it's amazing today that people can turn up on YouTube and find videos of one role-playing game going on, and it's so much. I still think you cannot really. I learn games, even my favorite games, not through the books, but through people running it for me and then running it for them. And for me, that's one of the beauties of tabletop RPG. It's like the spoken word. You share it with other people by doing it, not by intermediate media. But you segue something else. You mentioned Q&A, and I think it's the right time to maybe have a Q&A. We're going to speak a bit more probably later about the technical aspects. So if you have questions, dear people in the chat room, if you could have those questions not being about the technical bits, because we'll discuss that a bit later. But do you have questions for Little Red Dot and Scratticus here?
I can see Remley Farr, the much mentioned Remley Farr of Remley Farr something. Search Remley Farr, you'll find it. He says, I've grown to like one-shots almost more than ongoing shows. What can one-shot broadcasters do to help their games stick as hard as longer shows do?
It's funny because in your question you almost say, I don't consume a lot of actual plays, but I prefer one-shots and very tight ones. So I stick more to shows like She's a Super Geek because I know, you know, we were talking about Critical Role, their ongoing story and the fact that each episode is around 4 hours. I started with campaign 2 to follow them, and I really was there. Okay, I want to be there because I like the community and the fan art, etc., and I want to know what's going on. And then I lost my job, so I didn't have any commute anymore, and I missed a few episodes, and I fell from the bandwagon, and I don't think I'm gonna listen to Critical Role until they got a third season. So
Yeah.
actually, one shots are more effective at keeping me as an audience captive because I can leave and come back much more easily and pick and choose the bit I like.
You've hit the net. Like, so one of the it's one of the reasons I keep my campaigns quite short as well. I like an 8 to 16 episode campaign.
Oh, I'm even less than that. I'm like 8 to 10 is my prime spot.
I must admit, season 2 that I'm organizing right now, all of them are around 8 episodes. All are 8 episodes because I'd love to watch Critical Role season 1. I would love to. I would love to sit down and watch that show, but that is like a 400-hour commitment or something crazy. Like that's more than binge watching.
I was about to say you need a
seasons.
Vacation just to listen.
Yeah, like that's like if I watched every episode of Game of Thrones, I probably still wouldn't have covered all of Critical Role. You know, like it's a big thing. So like, what do I do? What do I do in one shots to keep them exciting? I keep them short and I keep them exciting. I try and make like the planning I do. I plan critical things that are going to happen, or I put something in that's everything's building up to this and we're on a clock. Make it exciting, that's...
Yeah, I think too, at least what I kind of took from Rim's question was more about like, how do you sustain a show that's just a bunch of one-shots? How do you create that sustainability the way Critical Role does with an extended campaign? I think there are a few ways to do it. When you look at somebody like Scrat, he's bringing in new people every time. So you're literally building an audience around new people by bringing them in. So that is simply a simple, easy way to do it. Like grab your lowest hanging fruit and involve them in what you're doing. Then, I think that one of the things that I do to keep one-shot campaigns, as you talk about, like that's basically what I do over on Encounter Roleplay for the viewer game. Is like every week it's a one-shot because I have new players at the table every week. And it's to theme it. Put it in a place, in a world, in a location, in a thing that is easily controlled. And you can have all kinds of things going on. I think about like the gallery at Grunrundy. That place functions with or without your players there. It's this ever-evolving world and space. It's always moving and growing and crazy stuff's happening and bad people are emerging. So it's not about the individual characters. It's about their existence in a place, which makes it situational. And situational games are the easiest way to keep one-shots going without burning out, focusing too much on one character, and being able to keep an overall theme and collective so that you can have that same campaign style with it just being a bunch of one-shots.
I think you hit the spot there. Mentioning lawful and orderly. It's an ongoing story in one way, but at the same time, all the stories are self-contained. It reminds me of Pratchett almost. You want to start to read Discworld. Actually, you could pick up pretty much any of the Discworld books. Mm-hmm. They are there. You find you've got recurring characters you're happy to see again, but at the same time, if you can pick them in the wrong order, etc., it's working. And same with We Roll Podcast. They got small bits of campaigns, and We Roll is a good one also to talk about another aspect. You could have a team which is meta, in the sense that it's not in the narrative itself, but it's about what you're covering. So Red Moon Role Playing, for instance, which we met recently with Scratticus, they cover games which are mostly Swedish, but they all have a dark undertone. They're not necessarily Swedish, but they got this feel together, this thing in common. You got the Rolistes Effect podcast. I think that they do have a few actual plays, but same, they mostly do the stuff from Freya Liga. So it could be Cthulhu, could be space, could be another subject. Again, She's a Super Geek, showcasing women as game masters and being really on the team of indie role-playing games and showcasing them. What's the thread in between your one-shots? It can be the people, can be the narrative, can be the sort of
Can
games
be,
you play.
yeah, or themes, exactly. Like I think about something like Black Mirror. Everybody loves that show. You can watch any Black Mirror episode in any order you want from any season of it, and they stand alone. But we still understand that when we come to watch Black Mirror, what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it's going to be thriller and somewhat horror, and that it's going to screw with your brain a little bit. It's like watching The Twilight Zone, right? We know going into it, but none of them have to relate. You also think about some of the shows, like at least the ones that I love, that really drew me into long-term narrative storytelling, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When Buffy started, every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer was standalone. It was encapsulated in this one thing. We learned more and more about the characters each time, but it wasn't really until the later seasons that we start getting this big like character arc for her. People love one-shots. We love them. Supernatural started that way. So many of our episodic TV shows that we binge start that way. And it's a really, I think it's a really great way, if nothing else, to segue into the next question, to, especially if you're starting a new show, to frame things, to make sure that you don't dive in too deep too fast. One-shots can be a really, really easy way.
It's
Also
funny
probably
it's
go on.
funny because in television, everything used to be anthology shows. Star Trek was exactly like that, and it was a kind of revolutionary and something great for storytellers that we started doing these big arc shows. But now sometimes I feel like there's too many of them. The tendency is too much to big arcs, and it makes things difficult to consume. And personally, I welcome that shows go back to this anthology format, and allow people to consume just bits of things. It's funny, something which used not to be the main thing now has become the main thing, to the point where it's too much of it, and we're rediscovering the interest of the short format storytelling.
It's interesting as well because, like, have you ever watched a show that you really like the start of? You like the first season or the first two seasons, and then you start to go off it. It's interesting, isn't it? How you can have a bad one shot and still like the entire season, but if you don't like the entire arc,
it's over.
Yeah, I dropped from iZombie like that. Third season, it became less one shots and more long story, and didn't grab me, and that's it. I fell off the bandwagon because suddenly
I think too, you know, for me as somebody, for all of you out there that are wanting to start a show or you're a starting DM, a giant story arc is daunting. It is daunting, and you and your players can become lost in it, and then you get what I call the endless games, the ones that have no purpose or point, and that's where people burn out. That's where your creative energies go flat. And I think that you should do yourself a favor and start by just running some one-shots, or do what I do. I run mini campaigns, 2 episodes, 3, 4 episodes. I'm about to start in the fall a bunch of 4 episodes, 1 a month, and it's easy and it's simple. And I don't know about you guys, I love to close a story out. I find there is something so satisfying about wrapping up a story, even if there are things that weren't answered, there are characters that didn't get their moment in the light, but closing a story out feels good. It feels good.
See, now that is I think we're very, very similar DMs, but that is one place we differ. I love leaving that thread hanging at the end, like, oh, all of this has happened, but see you next time.
Yeah, but you can have those, but when I mean like close out a story, I mean there has to be an end to it. So like I played a game with them the other night over on Scratch channel that definitely ended in complete openness.
That was an amazing one shot.
Right, they were left in Barovia, just being like, brr. Scrat's character had to kill his own son, who was a werewolf. It was a mess, and there were so many loose ends, you can say. But it also closed up in this really heartfelt, emotional way. Like it just had a beautiful ending, this button on it, and you're like, oh, if there was a second episode, I'd be there. But it was that episode's ending. You know, yeah, you don't want to be, just as Archmage says, you don't want to be that person that was like, well, we never finished that campaign. Those are the ones that hurt. Like I've had those campaigns where we start and we don't finish. Allow people the joy of ending and completing a story.
Do you think it all comes from the main platform? Because like we're all playing a game that was designed to take you from level 1 to 20 to upwards. We all know the stories of Igvilv and Mordenkainen and Melf and all these level 25 upwards characters that have been played for a long, long time. I mean, we talk about other games, but really, this is the golden age because of D&D.
Yeah. No, and it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And you do have to think about the fact that, like, it did start that way, but I think, and it's evident to me, at least, having been somebody that has played through pretty much every edition but the first one. I started in 3.5 and then went back and did, 2, 3. That was like Pathfinder 4, skip to 5. So, I've watched this progression, and the progression has been that it has become more role play heavy, and it's not about the win condition. It's not about getting to level 20 anymore. It's about telling stories with interesting characters, or sometimes non-interesting characters. I've played those too.
I've got a bit of an issue when it's too much D&D centric in terms of merits and the hobby. Sorry, something I keep telling again and again. Sorry for the people who happen to listen to my show, but I started role-playing game in the late 90s. Because of the issues with TSR, AD&D second edition was still around. You would find it in shop, but it was not promoted, etc., pushed in the front of you. And the big thing, and it's coming back, I hope, was Vampire the Masquerade and a number of other games.
I was about to say, I started a campaign for that on Saturday.
But the landscape then, and that's something personally I miss, that's a side question, but the landscape was much more balanced between all those games. Some people played D&D, some people played Vampire the Masquerade, which was very big then, but people played a number of things, and it was not this, you were talking about an anomaly. Right now I feel D&D is a big anomaly, because I don't know any medium, any art, where one single thing is dominating that much, where it's to the point where people are saying we should stop calling that tabletop RPG and just call that D&D with vampire, D&D with spaceships, etc. It's so huge. I mean, I remember people telling us the Beatles how much they were all over the place when they were big, and when they were gone, that's when music could. There was a void and it was filled, and I think that's what the 90s were in gaming. But I think all these games in the 90s, the Travelers, the RuneQuest, etc., did push D&D in a direction which became 3, then 3.5, and then stuff changed, and 4 and 5.
I would agree. I mean, any market tells you that somebody has to come out on top. And D&D came out on top.
Yeah, but there's on top, and there's you look at the pie chart called camembert in French, the pie chart of the games played on something like Roll20, or you could argue that Roll20 might not be representative of what people play at home, but it's ginormous. It's like 80%.
No, and I'm not disagreeing with you there. I mean, in terms of the percentage of people that play D&D over other tabletop RPGs, D&D runs away with the flag by miles.
Yeah.
And we can't deny that. But I think that there's something to be said about the way that D&D is structured, and it draws people to it. It just does. And I don't know if you're right, if it was something about the time and the way that they escalated faster than the rest of the other tabletop RPGs.
No, I think what happened at some point, D&D is big always been, but at some point, because they were less active, created a void which was filled by a number of other games, and then when they came back big and big again, and even bigger. And 5th edition is, well, first, it's a very good game, and second, they learn very good lessons from a number of feedback on their own game, but also from other games. And 5th edition is hitting completely the jackpot after a very good 3.5, and personally I liked 4th edition, but it's I mean, it's completely insane. Yeah.
No, it is insane to think about. Like, I mean, what, 20 years ago we were worried about D&D being only for Satan worshippers. You know what I mean? And now you've got podcasts that are listened to in cars with parents and kids in the morning where they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. It kind of blows my mind, the trajectory and the I don't know, the morphing that has happened in people's minds and society about how and why it's okay to play games.
Sorry, it's my fault, because that's an old battle horse of mine, that specific topic. I think we should maybe bring back the thing back to the actual play subject. Or do you think about
yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have one last sideline?
Yeah,
It's
of
not
course,
related
sorry.
to D&D. my one last sideline is Chelsea. You've just sparked in me. Do any of the kids you teach listen to your podcast?
I told my seniors about it because let's be real, I'm not necessarily PG in my podcast. My character alone, her existence is not PG.
Are there
So
any kids you teach? Kids, are you in the chat room right now?
They better not be. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't really go by Chelsea very much, because I don't want them to be able to like track me down. No, I try to keep myself like Little Red Dot and Chelsea kind of separate, but my seniors last year, because I've only been at the school a year, on graduation day I gave them my business card. I was like, now you can listen to all my stuff because I'm not your teacher anymore. Your parents can't like sue me or something. But yeah, there are a few of them that listen to it, and one of my students doesn't listen, but he's like, my aunt loves D&D, I gave it to her, now she listens to it.
Sorry, we can totally go back to topic now. You just sparked that in me. I had to know. I had to know immediately.
It was a great question. Would have been sad not to ask it. So, going into the more technical and practical aspects of things. So, if you want to start a actual play show, that's for you. What do you need to do an actual play show? Actually, well, the very basics are. I got my little list in front of me. Well, you need a game master and players. So, what do you? What kind of game masters and players do you need for an actual play show, as opposed to just a regular game at home in your basement or living room?
Well,
internet connection.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that there's this idea now, because we stream things live, that there has to be entertainment value. I think if you're going to start a channel, there are a few questions you need to ask yourself before you dive into what technology you need, before you worry about getting cameras and mics and who's in my cast. Stop for a second and ask yourself why you're going live. Because if you can do it in a basement, what is the difference? If you're going live because you can do it online and you need to connect people, you can technically do that without broadcasting. Why are you broadcasting?
Or recording.
Or recording, you're right, or recording for YouTube or a podcast, because that is going to answer a lot of things for you. Are you trying to launch a brand new network? Because that is a giant task, which I'm sure Scrat can tell you all about, right? Are you simply trying to just put your weekly group together and you decided you just want to put it out there? So you've got a lot, your scale of what you need is very different. Are you simply just, like I said, hanging out with friends? Are you doing what I'm doing, which is kind of a variety channel, and I only stream D&D once to twice a month on my channel? What are you doing with it? And having a really clear vision is going to help you know exactly what it is you need. But because without that vision, you're going to go into it and you're going to get a lot of stuff you don't need. You're going to saturate yourself with unnecessary stuff, and you're going to almost push yourself out of why you wanted to start in the first place.
I think something I heard often is people saying, "Oh, our games are very good, they're great, we should record them, and then we can put them online and people's gonna love it." And yes, but no, at the same time, if you play for an audience, there are some things you need to have in mind. They're like a player, a person sitting at the table with you, and you have to consider them when you run your game. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I guess
you're like the crazy guy in terms of picking players, because you pick any volunteer you're happy to take on board. There's no specific qualities you think which are if not needed, welcome for recorded plays or live stream?
Need to have a mic. Need to not have racism, homophobia, any other
equity.
Thank you. That's what they need.
They need to be equitable.
Yes, they just need to not be dicks. And you know what? I'll welcome anyone on my show. And yes, if I was sitting here and this was the Scratticus Academy, and we are only thinking in terms of money and business, would I take on new people? No, because it's high risk, very high risk. people drop out all the time. People have really bad quality sometimes, not for any fault of their own, but like, hey, if you're streaming through a webcam mic and there's someone mowing the lawn outside, well, that's picking up. And you know what? We just soldier on through, because our focus isn't on the business side of things. It's on getting more people into this game and having fun. So our focus on every little one shot is just them people having fun. And if chat wants to get involved as well, great. And when people, and what you see, which really keeps me in it and really is what I need from the games, is you see people come in as absolute beginners. They'll be nervous. They won't want to do any role playing or anything. Maybe they'll just use their regular voice, and they'll, just have a character who's quite tame. It's got a little bit of imagination in there because they want to be interesting, but they're playing it safe. And you know what? They get by and they're okay. And they message me again and say, hey, I really enjoyed that. Can I come again? Then the next time they come on, this time they've brought a voice with them. They're trying on a voice, and their character has this quirk that's not in the rules. It's completely made up. It's just this quirk that it does. And their quality is just a little bit better somehow. They've moved the fan because they've gone back and listened to the first one and gone, oh, damn, I can hear the fan all the time, and I'll move my fan. And that's what I need as a streamer. I love seeing people develop, and I love seeing people come through the academy and then go on to Encounter Roleplay, go on to WebDM, go on to the Greyhawk channel, any of these places, which I am building great ties with purely because I know a lot of the players. We all played together. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say for me, I only run one show where I allow a lot of people to come in. I think that if you're going to start your own channel, again, ask yourself, what are you wanting out of it? One of the reasons I started wanting to put shows on my own Twitch channel on Little Red Dot. I don't want to start a network. That is not my goal. I just want to be Little Red Dot, and I want to play games, as many games as I can be involved in, even if it means it's not on my channel. But I also wanted to start telling my own stories. Like, I realized I had a lot of content and I had a lot of things I wanted to do and a lot of ideas. And as they'll teach you in art school, nobody's going to put your ideas to good use but you. So I decided to do it on my own. And I said, okay, I have a lot of people that want to play with me that are new and are beginners, and I want a safe space for that. So I made a show for that. That is what Sunday Fun Days are for. Sunday Fun Days are simply for us to get together and have fun on Sundays. Like, that's what we do. But I'm putting together a series of other shows that I'm curating a little bit more. I am choosing my cast. I am trying to partner the right people. So I think, again, it comes down to what kind of network or show or channel are you wanting to run?
That's one of the things I'm finding with growth. So like my core, that's what you need. That's what you need to get started. Core value, right? That's what you need. That's what we're all alluding to. Some sort of core value that you hold to. But as I'm growing, and I am growing, I'm looking at my next season. I've got a bunch of guest DMs, and you know what? They want to do an arc. They won't be able to do new players every week. So I'm having to split my channel now into part long-running games and part one-shots, which is absolutely fine. But
it's also healthy. And okay, take it from somebody that has a master's degree in business, people. The first thing that they're going to teach you is that you need to diversify your funding streams. Okay? Shoe stores don't just sell one color flip-flop. They're going to sell tons of different kinds of shoes in all kinds of sizes for men and women. So the more that you diversify, so you should have that place where, you should have that place where you can bring new customers in, where you can bring those viewers, the people that need something new, and make them feel like part of your channel. But it's also okay to have something that's more structured, that may have more entertainment value, that may have that story arc and great role players. Those things make your channel diverse.
What's interesting, using a marketing speech, I did not realize that, and it's great. Scratticus Academy, your USP, your unique selling point, is kind of the antithesis of celebrity RPG or something like Critical Role, because you are the introduction channel show, so that's the channel I can go to. I could literally go to your channel and play with you, but also I can watch people who are newcomers, and they're struggling, and they're more or less good, but they're good, but they do their thing and they progress, etc. So in a way, rather than there's been so many talks which I personally find are unfunded about Critical Role, raising the stakes for game masters, and you see Critical Role. Yeah, of course you want to play, but in the end you watch it and you're scared to play because yourself you're not Sam Riegel or the Rebellion. Can I do all of that or everything they do? Well, watch Scratticus and we'll see just regular Joes like you and me, or at least like we were when we began, having a go at role-playing games and learning, and yeah, come on this channel. Just get a decent webcam and a microphone, and Scratticus will take you. It's an amazing unique selling point.
Damn. I just like playing games, I guess.
Yeah.
No, but like I've only been going for a year now. Okay, so it's been 1 year. I'm waiting to see Edmund Silveroak resub on my channel, because he marks my 1 year anniversary. He marks my anniversaries because on my first day of becoming affiliate, he was my first subscriber. And hence why I keep his name written, because he's not only my first subscriber, he's my marker. He's how I know how long I've been doing things. We've only been playing 1 year with newbies. People ask me sometimes, where do I see this all going? Like in 5-10 years? Do you know what I want to see? I want to see one of the guys that came through one of my campaigns or came through one of my one-shots on something like Critical Role. You know, like,
yeah,
not me. I don't care. You guys go and have fun.
Real teacher, Scrat. That's what real teachers do. We do. We educate. We teach people to do something, to learn something, so that they can go out and be better people in a larger society. In this case, our society is tabletop RPG.
Amazing. Question: we were talking about the players, but what about the game masters? What is there a different way to approach a game for this entertainment value, or at least with a minimum consideration for that additional player who's not at the table with you, who's the person watching? What is that thing you're holding?
I'm so glad you asked. There is a way. There's a special way of prepping a 3-hour one-shot.
I remember the day that Scrat came to me. Like I said, we chat all the time on Discord. He's like, holy crap, Chelsea, I figured out how to write a one-shot. You just make X amount of bullet points, and then you just use those as they come up. And I was like, duh, Scrat.
This is how it works.
Everything that I do. You know, that I actually plan every 1 hour, like one shot.
So I literally write bullet points with times next to them, half an hour apart. I write a distinct part of plot that's going to happen next to that bullet point. And if we're getting close to that time, you know what? I'll push things towards it. Or if we're taking too long, do you know what? Or if people are moving too fast, I'll throw in some, like, I don't know, there's a trapdoor, you fall in a spike pit, we're going to have to try and get out of there. It's pretty deep. You know, like, it just paces things, keeps it interesting. It's great.
I just launched this is kind of how I do mine. I do have bullet points, but mine are more, I always have 3 encounters. There's a major NPC encounter, a combat encounter, and a puzzle encounter. Just have 3 of them and be ready to dump them in whatever order they come in. But I've recently launched my Patreon, and one of the things that I'm trying to do on my Patreon is take all my one-shots, because Lord knows I write a butt ton of one-shots and put them into single-page game prompts. Because I think, too, we're getting to a point as more people take in tabletop RPGs, they don't want this, like, very straight-through-line narrative. I think there is still part of the tabletop community that wants that dense module from Wizards of the Coast, where you gotta read page by page and you gotta do this step and then, you know, X, Y, and Z. But a lot of the time, really, what people are looking for when they go to a module is simply inspiration, or a rough setting, or some ideas. So I have stopped really writing giant modules, and I write 1 to 2 page like PDF prompts. That's like, this is the scenario. Here are major NPCs. Here are locations, and here are things that they could run into. Put them in any order you like, because you're really the creative person as the DM or the GM. Really, maybe what you need is just the spark to slide it into your pirate campaign or into your Barovia location, you know?
And don't ever be afraid to just rip stuff off as well. Some of my best streams,
much.
Like I'm not streaming them now. I hacked the hell out of Jurassic Park. I hacked the hell out of Godzilla. Peter Pan. Hell yeah, we'll do it. You know, let's just rebrand it slightly and play it. You know, it's people love playing through things that they've seen. It's their opportunity. This is actual play. This is why people play video games, you know?
Yeah. It's that moment when you're sitting in the theater and you're like, oh, I would not. Why did you do that? I don't want to. Don't do that. And you're like, well, if you come to the table, now you can make a better choice, friend. You know, like.
Why do you play the Lord of the Rings video game? Because you've seen the Lord of the Rings movie, you know? So why'd you play the Lord of the Rings a tabletop opera? Like, oh, because I saw the Lord of the Rings movie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people are keen on the subject. It's not the sexiest, but what about equipment and software and these sort of things? What's your advice for beginners for stream? And I'll give some for podcast.
Don't go too deep at first. Take your time.
So yeah, take your time and find a mentor. Find somebody that has been doing it and has done it and knows how to do it. That way, when you dive into OBS, when you attempt to edit a video,
so wait a second. What is OBS Studio? Maybe because you
right, and I'll get there. I'll get there. Okay. When you're trying to set all of your things up, it is helpful to have a person. To communicate with, to be able to go to. I remember when I was starting to set up, I went to RIM and Scrat quite frequently. In fact, it was like, help me. And they were very kind to do so. So that's step number one. Find somebody that you trust, that you know will not mind you shooting a couple messages to when things get hairy, because things are going to get hairy. As for the actual software and programs, start simple. I still don't even they have this snazzy thing where each of us are in these individual boxes and our names are typed above it. I still, on my Sunday fun days, don't do anything but one giant box that captures Zoom. Make your life easy. It can still look nice without you having to go in terms of the production value above and beyond to start with.
As a designer, it's so my job is architect. And the main advice for any thing you would do, even if you're doing a book, it's better to do a little very well than trying to do a lot of things complex with pictures and animation, etc. And it's not working. Really, less is more. Go for simplicity. Again, doing a minimum, but making it look nice. I don't know if it looks nice what I did for tonight, but
and I'm saying it definitely does. Like it's even snazzier than like what I do. So I guess what I'm saying is, for me, when I stream, it's not about the production value. It's about streaming with people and telling a story.
Remember what you're there to do. Yeah. Remember what you're there to do.
But there are going to be some things that you need. Over time, you will want to get a pretty good camera. You'll start to see the difference in people's cameras.
Even before that, do you know what? I can handle Chelsea if you freeze, but if you sound shitty or stream, mic's the first thing I invested in.
And yeah, I would say mic is a good one. And there are some, actually, if you go to my Twitch page, my mic cost me less than $50, and it is a fantastic mic. It is all I have ever streamed on. It's what I'm streaming on now. You can go to my Twitch page, and at the very bottom, I have my Amazon list of things Chelsea loves, and that mic is right there.
Yes.
Go click on it and buy it. It's a fantastic compressor mic.
And that is a very, very good point as well. It's an easy trap to fall into. I want to stream. I need to spend loads and loads of money. No. Don't need to. I mean, yeah, sure. I've upgraded my mic a little bit since then, but my first mic was very much the same. It was like a $20, $30 mic. My webcam, it's the Lifecam 3000. It's like 30 quid or something, £30.
See, and I was about to say green screen. I haven't done that because I like my art.
$4. You know, it's easy.
Yeah, but I found out, well, that's I got mine behind me because my apartment is, it's my living space in London. It's rather small. I don't have exactly a room for myself, so I went green screen, and then I find out actually it needed to be lit in a special way also to work. But I guess what it boils down, both in terms of equipment and in terms of skills, there's a learning curve and this step by step of what you're doing. You start with the most important bit, which is the sound. It's super critical, and I know I'm going to talk a bit about podcasts, so strictly audio. It's okay if your first few episodes don't sound perfect. They won't, and don't judge any podcast by the very first episode, please. So you're gonna learn to improve. What's important is that you are keen to improve what you're doing, and that as you grow more confident and more knowledgeable, and you are advised by individuals or stuff like hashtag Podern Family, the very group of people, amazing not only to help you with the technical aspects, but also to promote your show. You invest bits by bits in the thing because you will find out what you actually need, because there's a number of options of different things. For instance, myself, I went the quotation mark analog way. I'm gonna pick it. I got this thing because the first thing I do is recording in the streets, interviews, or in the middle of places, and because I went that way, I extended that equipment to record games also, and I started with just this. Then I had a couple microphones. Now I'm trying to have a microphone per players, and you progress and you invest a bit. And if you are lucky, you can have a few patrons to help you invest in that and improving the things. But what I think is important is not even the equipment, etc. Is that you want to do better. And as long as you want to do better along the way, your show is gonna reach quite fast the level of quality of a professional show. There are ceilings of stuff like you don't have a studio and the acoustic is not working. But yeah, that's what is important, is you want to improve, and people will hear that and they will respect that. The only thing which I personally find wrong, which I find it's not acceptable, is if I listen to a show, it's episode 45 and the sound is the same as episode 1 because people didn't seem to care about that. That's a no-no for me. That's my only criticism, and the only thing I would tell you. Go step by step.
Right,
don't rush. Don't spend all your money on something very fast, and don't be scared to start with a little equipment. But yeah, go step by step and start with what you have. I did interviews with my phone. Cell phones are amazing recording device nowadays.
I still do. I've started applying for press badges at cons and stuff. I do all of my interviews direct to Twitter on my phone. I stand right there, cell phone in hand. I'm like, talk to the people at home. Again, I think we all want to be a critical role. I recently have received one of the most important pieces of information that I have ever received ever. It has been really important in this last 6 months of my life. Bill Gates actually said it, and he said, as Americans, we overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 10, which is about slowing down. We all want to do everything, and we want to have the big dream in a year. We want to just cram all this stuff in and do it as quick as possible. And I think when you actually look at it, could you imagine what you can accomplish if you put that amount of energy in 10 years and expand your dream than trying to cram it quickly into one? And I think that it's the same thing when you go to start a stream. You cannot expect to be and encounter role play in a year, because it's taken him 3 to get where he is. Right? Nothing happens overnight. So just like that, you're not going to you shouldn't get all of your equipment overnight. Take your time. But as he so beautifully pointed out, your audience wants to see that you are growing and evolving. And it's what helps them stay with you, to know that you're getting bigger as the more that they listen to you, and you get more people and those kind of things. So yes, you do have to change over time, and you are going to have to make some investments, but you don't have to do it out of the gate. It won't make or break.
And it ties in with your suggestion of starting with small arcs or one-shots, because it allows you to experiment. Because I think a big misconception of a lot of things in general, not just streaming and or podcasting, is that I've got this big dream and I'm going to do it. The truth is, as you do things, your dream change. You do things, we're talking about what's the USP of your show, what's the team, etc. You might not know when you start. You're gonna discover it along the way, and that's what's super exciting. I think even something like Critical Role, they had no idea what they were gonna be.
No, there were a bunch of friends that were like, "Hey, you guys want to make a D&D show?" And that's how they started out. And it just so happened that they were all incredible voice actors, so they knew how to tell story and do voices. And now we have Critical Role, but they didn't start out knowing that they were going to be this today. Do you think Matt Mercer knew that? No.
No, and it was not even his objective. It was, I'm sure it was just one project among others, and that's the one which survived. I think it's Conan O'Brien who made a speech at the university explaining how his dream was to be the host of the something like the Jay Leno show, the Letterman show, and what he explains that actually I made up my own show at some point, and it's much better. It's much better than that dream you chase. So your dream's gonna evolve. Just have a go at it. Do and try.
Yeah.
Do and try
Yeah.
and assess and improve. That's what matters. Don't wait. Don't overplan. Don't be analyzed, paralyzed. Just go ahead, try something, and do
Yeah.
your best.
Yeah, and don't be scared to fail. You guys can go back if they're still out there. My first videos when I was putting together my cosplay were a disaster. Like, I didn't know how to stream. I was figuring it out. My camera was only okay. My mic was kind of okay, but like I would come on and be like, there would be no sound, or I'd come on and my video would be funky, or I would be talking to myself and not even realize I was live. I've made those mistakes.
Or everyone would be frozen.
Okay, that was not my fault. That was everybody else's fault. Yeah, but it's bound to happen, and I think part of what and why people watch Twitch is because we like to watch real people. We don't. If we wanted to go watch a talk show, we'd go put on ABC America, but we don't. We want to go watch real people communicate. I think somebody earlier said, I like watching streams where I feel like I know these people, where they feel real and human, and we make mistakes, and my friends play pranks on me on my very first live stream. Okay. Like, those things make or break live shows, because that's what makes them live. They're unique and in a moment, and we feel like real people. And I think that is something you can bring your personality, whatever it is that makes you to the table. I mean, it's kind of how, as I'm starting to really launch RPGs on my own channel, one of the things that I don't want to do is become a D&D channel. I play a lot of D&D. And so I'm trying really hard to bring my level of quirkiness, the things that I like, that Chelsea likes, because it is the Little Red Dot channel. It's not a network. I can do the hell ever I want to do because it's mine, you know? And I haven't really announced it officially, but I guess I can now, that in the fall I will be running a new Fate game called Fate of the Anchorman. And we're going to be using the 70s, like, vibe of the Anchorman movies, where we're literally a news team, right? I love that movie. I love that sense of humor, and it's something that I can bring to my new favorite tabletop RPG, which is Fate Core. And I'm doing it with a lot, like, I'm thinking maybe a Brave Little Toaster game, because that was one of my favorites growing up. And so I'm beginning to bring my own special twist to what's on my channel, and I suggest you do the same. Don't try to be a Critical Role. We don't need another Critical Role, right? Don't try to be another Encounter Roleplay. They're that thing. I can remember when Scrat was starting out, and we would have this conversation over. I was like, what makes you unique, Scrat? What you just lean into that, you know? And he did. And look, just as you were saying earlier, he's got an incredible thing where he can have anybody and everybody on his channel. And it makes him unique, and it makes what he does incredibly unique.
Take risks.
I don't know what to say.
Take risks as the thing of so if you're starting something new, you can experiment, take risk, and that's your big advantage when you start anything compared to others, because even streamers, after a while, you grow habits, your audience has got expectations based on what you're doing, and so it's important to remain fresh, but that's how any project goes. Unless you start over completely, you still binded by what I like the idea that you are owned by stuff you possess in a way. So if you develop something, it's gonna bind you in some way. And it's, when I listen to my very first episode, there's some stuff I was crazy. I'd like to go back to that craziness. But if you are starting a new show, your new show, go ahead, do whatever you want, and that's your asset. That's the thing which gonna attract people. That okay, they're trying this thing, they're taking risks. Because when you are, we met Satine and Ruti soon in this month's episode of the Rolistes Podcast from Mesa Arcana, and because this show has become important, they've got responsibilities towards people, towards the show, towards the audience. They cannot do as many things as a little or a new show can do. So that's your advantage over everybody else. You can do whatever you want.
Such a good point. Such a good point. Yeah, take some risk. especially while you can, take them. And be damned if nobody tunes in. We were saying that earlier. Like, don't watch your viewer count. Doesn't matter. If you're there simply for how many viewers you have, your show is never going to make it because you're there for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Just stream, and your audience will show. They will show up. I promise. Trust the way it works. Trust it.
I guess that's a pretty common misextrapolation of chat involvement in actual play D&D games, because it is a beautiful thing, chat involvement. So the extrapolation could be, well, if chat involvement is a big part of actual play games, if there's no audience, then the actual play game isn't as good. Right. No. The thing is, if your content that you are streaming is exactly the same content to 0 viewers as it is to 5,000 viewers, they're gonna come. They're gonna come. You'll get that interaction. It won't matter at all.
It shouldn't matter, because it would really, if you had 5,000 versus 5, would it make a difference the story you wanted to tell? Shouldn't. It should not make a difference. You should simply show up and tell that story. And because you're streaming it live, you're going to get an audience, but the number doesn't matter.
The thing is, when you do something, and I learned that in amateur theater stuff, if your mindset is to do something as a professional, with dedication, it's going to be as good as the work of a professional. And quality is what's important to bring and keep people. Now the thing I would still say, though, my personal opinion, because I'm also between cultures across the channel with France, where they don't like that, and I've been criticized for that. I personally think it's still important to put yourself out there in some way. Not to be obnoxious about it, but be on Twitter, on social media platform, speak out about what you're doing. You need to
you can promote yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, you should promote yourself by all means. I mean, if you're wanting people to show up, you're going to have to promote yourself. So you got to get over the fear of, like you said, putting yourself out there. But I mean, when you're live and you're streaming and you're creating the thing that you create, just let the viewers happen. Let it be what it is.
By all means, go back afterwards, go back afterwards and look at the stats when you're not live, because then you can look at averages, you can look at standard deviations, you can look at actual statistics and real facts. The problem is, if you look at a viewer count, is it up to date? How do you know? Is it accurate? How do you know? You're just seeing a snapshot. You've seen one snapshot. You can't see the noise from the movement. So go back and look at your statistics. And if one show you did has got a massive spike of viewers, then hell, what did we do on that show? That must have been good. Did we all enjoy that? Hell yeah, that was the show we were all creasing up. Do you remember? We did this, this, and this. And that's how you can develop, and that's how you can look at viewers, but never look live. I never look live. The only thing I look at live is the chat. I pop it out.
Yeah. I don't have live. So so it's still encouraging.
Podcasts are. I was about to say podcasts are a little different.
So I'm looking at my statistics, and I'm not overly obsessed about it. But let's be honest, that's something which is important to keep me driven in doing it. So it's important for me to not to see that everybody leaves, or to see that things still keeps growing a little bit now and now. But even when you watch that your RSS feed, your downloads, your clicks, or whatever, what are they? Are they Russian bots? I got people allegedly listening to me from Brazil. I've been asking several times on the show for those people to send me a message, because I'm not even sure they exist. So here I've got a word not for the people doing this live streams or the podcast, but for the people who are listening. If you're listening to a show, and especially if you enjoy that show, don't assume that the person doing it don't need you to tell him or her that you are doing so, that you enjoy it and you're listening to it. Please send a tweet, a little link, recommend. It's so important, not just reviews, but it's so important on the day-to-day production of a show like that, to have this feedback, for quality improvement, but just as an encouragement. It's very, very important. And there's so many people being negative about the internet and criticizing the last thing in Star Wars, etc. If there's something you enjoy, please do tell people. It's more important than complaining about stuff. It's really
absolutely critical. I agree.
And if you like a thing as well, it's important to note. Like I'm not so sure on podcasting. We're looking at starting a podcast, but podcasting isn't my jam yet. but streaming, at least, there are so many ways you can support streams you like for free. It just takes you about a minute. One, turn up. Even if you can't be there, just turn up. Leave your computer on, leave your phone on somewhere plugged in, lurk, it boosts that viewer number, it gets more people along. Second, participate in chat. Now that does involve you being there. Participate in chat because that gets people talking. And the more people talk, the more people stick around. Next, usually when a show goes live, there will be a tweet. Like today, we've got the 5-minute warning tweet and everything. Retweet it. Retweet that shit. Spread the love for the accounts you like, and then the world is your oyster. The more you want to support, the more you can do. Like if you want to go and write your own tweet about it, maybe quoting the tweet, do that too. You want to go and write a blog about how this story arc has affected you recently and how much you love it. Great. If you really want to help me as a DM, tell me the things that you loved and hated the most, because I will take those things, I will dissect them, I will re-engineer them and find the best bits and put them somewhere else, and they'll come back bigger, stronger, better.
What I think there's a misconception when you go. So my degree's in business with a specialty in marketing. Now that we're having a marketing conversation,
Excellent.
there is a misconception. I think when it comes to networking, where we think networking is shake a hand here, introduce myself, and pass off a business card. That is not networking. Okay, that's called selling yourself, and there's a place for that. But real networking is about a mutual agreement between two people. I give and you give. And it's what we do as content creators with our audience. And ideally, when our audience then starts, hopefully your own stream or your thing, we become your audience. And it has to be a mutual gift back and forth. So in essence, what we're saying is if you like something, tell the world about it, because when that thing sees what you're doing, whether it's a podcast or a group of people or a person, they're going to support you. The online tabletop community is one of the most open and impressive communities I've ever been a part of. Okay.
The tabletop RPG community is amazing. I mean, even authors, if you
it's incredible.
It's crazy, insane.
Yeah. It's incredible. So make yourself a part of it. And being a part of it doesn't just mean showing up and watching. Now, if you just want to be hands off, that's fine. But if you're really wanting to launch a channel or you're going to want to do something, realize that those other people didn't start and it just blew up one day. They had people that shared their information and then shared back in return. That's real networking. That's really creating a network for one another. The internet's built off a network. It doesn't just send a signal one way. It has to send it back. It's the only way it works, right? It's the only way it works. So those signals have to constantly coming and going from the people that consume and the people that create. And ideally, when we switch places, we become the consumer and the viewer, and then the viewer and the consumer. But share, tell the world, blast it. And don't be afraid to blast your own stuff. I struggled a lot when I started with that, about really, especially my Twitter, talking about myself and what it was I was doing, and realizing it took me a long time to realize that it's not about what I'm doing. It's about what I'm giving to everybody else. The shows, my time, the content, the one-shots, the opportunity to play. So every time I shout and I begin to have that fear of doubt in my head about like, oh, how do I promote myself? I'm not promoting myself. I'm promoting an opportunity for you to be a viewer, for you to be in a game, for you to come watch entertainment. And I think sometimes when we change our mindset, we change everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Is it the right time to check the chat room for some additional Q&A?
There was one question I thought was really applicable. Rim tossed it out. Let's see if I can find it. Question. Besides players, viewers, and dungeon masters, what are some other skills/jobs that people can focus on to get their foot in the door of RPG broadcasting? And to back it up, what behind-the-scenes work needs to be done that viewers don't know about?
Ooh,
oh, my lordy. Can I tell you things about this? Okay, first of all, don't rely on these. I know you can buy sleeping cans. I do it, and I do it for my own stream, but I do everything. There is so much stuff that I'm trying to learn to hand off to other people because I have no time. I have no time. None. From uploading videos to YouTube, to taking videos off of Twitch so that I've got a record, from storage, because you know what? I've done enough one-shots now that my 3 terabyte hard drive is nearly full. There's so much stuff that you can just outsource to other people. And
stuff which are super simple. Like, I mean, I was talking about promotion. I'm trying to be as active as I can be on Facebook and Twitter, and I see a platform which seems interesting to well, self-promote apparently is not appreciated, but Reddit is like, for a direct example for me, all those platforms I'm promoting on took so much energy, and I wanted to do it a bit on Reddit also, and that's where I ran out. Ran out of energy. I'm like, I don't
I
want.
find Reddit sucks my energy. It doesn't give me energy. I only participate in social medias that give me energy. I don't Facebook very well because I find that it sucks my energy. I definitely don't Reddit because that is also a black hole. Okay, you can't be all things to all people, which means you can't be on all platforms.
No, but I guess if maybe I misunderstood the question, but what I thought was, oh, can someone support or get involved in an existing show? So, for instance, in my case, not even being a community manager, but volunteering to talking about my show in any fashion on Reddit, to name a specific platform.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so building a group of people that are like cheerleaders. Yeah. So I'm finding, like I said, I don't use Reddit, so I don't know anything about it, but I find that Discord is that way. There are a few people right here in chat that I would consider to be, I call them part of my little red dot army. They're my cheerleaders. They keep my Discord going on the days when I'm quiet. When I was away at Gen Con, they were still chatting. And those are the people that hopefully are there because they like my content and they like me. And they like the people that circle and around and encompass the work that I do. And so I think that that is one way, is to become what we consider a moderator on either our social media or in the live stream or in your Discords. Those people are imperative because they're not just another person that's leading. They're a participant. They really are that cheerleader, the person on the sidelines that is really holding the foundation up. So that is one way, is to be a moderator like you're talking about, and be somebody that helps tell other people about the stream or about the show.
Because you cannot really hire is not the right word, because we do something even if we had the money, but even if I had the money, hiring someone to do this kind of going in the community, and can be on any platform, in any forum, but yeah, cheerleading, as you are saying, that's such a gigantic help. I mean, it's like doubling my me or any show's presence online. I mean, it's just me right now in my case. Some other case, more other people are more lucky, but yeah, that's the thing you can definitely help. I mean, then you can go into helping in editing or God knows what, proofreading.
I was about to say writing. So many people have blogs and websites. Like I think about somebody like ERP. They have an entire team that's just writers. It just puts content on the blog and the Patreon. Maybe you're not so interested in streaming, but you still want to be involved in the community. Are you a great writer? Because we need more great writers. We need more of them. There's moderation. So for some of the larger chat groups, especially if you become a fan of some of them, when you've got hundreds or 200 messages flowing at a time, having a moderator that's not the person running the game is important. That, of course, that's way farther down the line, but that's another role and job that I find a lot of people get a lot of joy out of, and connects them with a lot of people, so that if you are starting your own stream, you now have a real network to kind of pull from.
And as you were saying, the community is amazing. I mean, if you do a show, but even if you support a show, you're gonna be in touch so fast with authors, fans, number of people, and people just come to you with projects, and I mean, it's just great.
Yeah. It's
the only community I've ever been in where, like, how'd you put it? We're not. So me and Chelsea. Let's take me and Chelsea as a prime example. Me and Chelsea. Chelsea is more of a variety streamer, but we both stream TTRPGs. Now, from a business standpoint, we are rivals. No, not in the TTRPG community. Not at all. This is the first community I've ever been in where people who produce the same content help each other. When one person does well, we all do well. We all share that, and it just builds us all up.
Because when I convert somebody that has never seen tabletop RPG before to a tabletop RPG enthusiast or consumer, now they're also a consumer for Scratticus and Rim's writing and Encounter Roleplay and your podcast, because what you've done is you've planted a seed that's now growing that we're all going to nourish and benefit from. So to think and take it from somebody that has worked in nonprofit arts for a long time, there's this strange thing that happens where it's like, whoa, those are our patrons. They're the patrons of the museum. They can't be patrons of XYZ museum because then they're not going to give us money. But what that does is it isolates us and it separates a community that really needs to be uplifting one another and say, well, but now they like to go to art museums. So now they're going to come to your art museum, right? It is the exact same principle. When Scrat brings new people that have never played before and gives them an opportunity to do it, he is creating new community members, new viewers, new content creators, new players, new GMs, new game designers, all these things we need for a sustainable community. And the more people we have, the stronger we are.
It's amazing.
I mean, didn't we have a lovely evening in London, Scrat? I mean, it was great. Okay, that's a story. I mean, okay, I'm plugging my show. I'm hoping to have a lot of people interested in my next episode. Satine Phoenix, Ruti Rutenberg from Maze Arcana coming to London. How did that happen? Someone called David Shepard, I hope I pronounced his name right, who is very engaged in the community. I found out much later. He runs a forum called The Piazza. Look at me, I'm happy to plug him and anyone. One day I saw he cheerleaded my show. It doesn't happen that often, but I saw on Facebook you've been tagged on something. I went to see. It was on the Maze Arcana Facebook page, and this gentleman said, "Oh, you're coming to London. You should meet Kalum from the Rolistes Podcast for an interview." Telling that to Satine Phoenix and Ruti Rutenberg, this gentleman has got a lot of credit with them because he's been a cheerleader for their own show for a long time. And he's really engaged in the community, so they took him seriously. So suddenly Maze Arcana tell me, "Oh, we're coming to London, could you interview us?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Do you want me to help you with something else?" "Oh yeah, we don't know stuff." Well, I put them in touch with a role-playing club. Then we had a charity event. Then I invited other shows because, as you said, they're not competitors. They're people sharing the passion, and what is good for them is good for me. And I mean, I gained a lot of quotation mark credit through that, and I met amazing people, and it all happened because someone cheerleaded me, someone shared, and then I shared even more, and it's amazing, and it's helping me. It's helping my show and what I'm trying to promote, just like Scratticus, trying to promote the culture, to be trans-channel, trans-pond, and yeah, it's give and you get back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So true.
And if you
so true.
And it's very fast. If you're giving and you get back, and you notice a few people who don't give back, well, you don't want to be mean, but you do it once, twice, 3 times, and as you said with the non-profit museums, they're gonna end up isolated, because at some point you're like, okay, I need to pick 4 players for my game. Each player is gonna be from a different show, and they can plug their show. Well, they're gonna end up being the 5th all the time, because you cannot do everything for everyone all the time. So they just drop off your rotation, and it's very sad, but they're only hurting themselves. I mean, I'm not thinking of someone in particular, but that's the way things go. And be nice, because it's
be so nice. Just like love everyone. You know, before I came into this online tabletop community, I come from a background of being a festival goer and a burner. So if you guys know what Burning Man is, that's kind of my vibe. Those are my people and my tribe. And there's a mindset there that makes it work, which is you're just nice to everybody. Like, how hard is it to just be kind to people and share and live this non-commodified lifestyle and all of these things? And yes, it's very hippy dippy in theory. I'll give you that. Okay. But what it taught me is that when you come into a community like this, that you can apply so many of those same rules to creating with people and making content with people and being part of a true community in the truest sense of the word. And when you give, they will give back.
And you say it's like hippy dippy, but like metal festivals, it's the same. Everyone looks after each other. Everyone's the same.
Everybody make sure you need water, somebody's got you. You need something or help, they're there for you. You're hungry, we'll feed you. You got need clothes because you walked last night in the desert naked. Well, man, have I got you some clothes, right?
And then it goes on from there as well. EDM, other music, all the music festivals are the same. Well, hang on a minute, what about cider festivals and beer festivals? Oh, wait, it's the same. Anywhere people are having fun, guess what? They're all being nice to each other.
Yep.
Where don't people be nice to each other, and where do people hate being? Factories, offices. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Would you say that's fair?
We have. I'm not quite at the point where I can really call it my job, though. I'm getting there. I have really high aspirations, but even to be able to get paid, even somewhat, to do what it is that I do, is such a blessing. And like the god, like the fate, like the die gods have rolled in my favor to allow me to do this kind of thing and to have people that want to see me do it and want to participate with me. And I would give everything I have to make sure that other people have that chance to know what it feels like to be able to game all the time. To be able to say that I tell stories for a living. It's all I ever wanted to do, right? I went to school to tell stories, and I thought it was the only way I was going to get to is if I was an actor. And I put all this time and energy into this thing, and everybody said, you got to do it this way. And that was such a lie. And my feet have found their own path into this thing that I could never, not in a million years, have told you. If you had told me 10 years ago that this is where I would be tonight, I would have laughed in your face and probably smacked you. Okay? Like, I would have laughed at you and said, no way would I be getting paid to play tabletop RPGs and to tell stories with people. It has always been my dream to tell collaborative stories, and to get to do it is, it's one of those things that makes me just want to let everybody, my nurturing side's like, come, everybody, let's play games together. And I just want to give everybody that sunshine and those rainbows and that chance to play. So just know that the community's there for you. And sometimes you got to rip that Band-Aid off and dive for it. Just go do it. We've got you. We will be there. Trust fall. Internet trust fall.
It's crazy. Like you say about like a year ago or however long ago, you wouldn't believe people. Like I said earlier, like soon my first sub will resub and I will know it'll been a year since affiliate. And I'm looking, as I cross that border, I'm looking at going full time in September. Like,
beautiful.
Sorry, what? You know, like a full schedule, like. Rather than my usual 8 to 12 games a week, I'm going to do a regular 12 games a week. You know, it's what? Like,
it's amazing in terms of infrastructure, and we mentioned softwares, etc. You got OBS Studio. I'm using it right now. I did this little thing you see around us. I did that half a day, but you can do something which looks like Fox News, CNN, any channel. Yeah, I mean, most of the channel, you can do things which look so much better. It's a free software based on donation.
I think, yeah,
it's
OBS.
insane.
So yeah.
I mean, I'm saying OBS, but the tools, the platforms we have to communicate with each others are crazy. Because what we're doing tonight, technically, is something which would have required, I don't know, a crew of 20 people in the 90s.
Huh? Yep.
And not with the definition of cameras we have, etc. So we've got these crazy tools, and use them and do stuff, because that's amazing. The only thing I would say is that if you're lucky, if you're hardworking and a bit of talent and passionate, you can get to this point where it could become a job. But I would think don't start with that in mind, because you're gonna need a lot of energy and passion and to give. And financial contribution, like I do receive through Patreon, and I'm so thankful for that, as will be first something. Well, and I don't see a future, me personally, where it will replace my job, but it will give you more means to do more stuff. And yeah, that's all I would say. I hear people saying, "I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make it." it's gonna take a long time. So if it's your drive from the beginning, uh, that that's gonna be really tough. So you need,
Yeah.
it needs to be about passion, not profit. I think, to start with.
Yeah. Well, and two, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, of course, of
You
course.
you're a podcast person, right? Like you do podcast. Scrap runs a network.
Yeah.
I am a person. I promote myself onto other people's channels. They hire me to come onto their games to run their games. So everybody's kind of, at least the three of us, it's kind of nice actually. We're all approaching the professional aspect of this different. There is no right or wrong way. There's no formula that's going to get you there. And I think you're right that you kind of have to pump the brakes and take your time. And if you want to go professional, know that it's going to take some time and some sacrifices.
Yeah, a lot of sacrifices.
Some serious sacrifices. Yeah.
Sleep
It just
being
does.
the first. Sleep
Yeah.
being the absolute first.
Yeah, because if you're like, you're like Scrat and I, we started out, he's kind of coming out of the full-time thing, and I'm still in a full-time job. So I still work 40 hours a week before I get home and do any of the 5 or 6 shows that I do a week. I haven't quite made it to a cusp where I can quit my day job and still be able to feed myself and my fur baby. So I'm not there yet. That's Twitch, but I'm working on it and I'm pushing hard for it. And if that's really what you want, if you really want to be professional, what I need to tell you is this: you have to create a lot of content. To go professional, you have to create an extreme amount of content. Podcasts are a little different because you kind of get away with the every week release. That is your see, and you do monthly. So like my podcast, we release an episode weekly, a main quest and then a side quest, a main quest and a side quest. But my Chelsea is always releasing stuff. Like today, I made announcements about my upcoming thing. I put out a PDF document, one of my game prompts, right? I was making connections. I emailed people from Gen Con. And then I also streamed earlier today before I even got here. Content is incredibly important to build, not only building an audience, but keeping them. They're there to consume. That's why we're called consumers. So if you don't have anything for them to eat and to take in and to consume, then they're going to go somewhere else to get their consumption.
Yeah, it's content and consistency. So there's also another advice I've got for podcasters. Weekly, it's quite challenging. I mean, if you do it, it's better for audience, etc., and iTunes ratings and this sort of things. But it's better to have a monthly show which is released each month on time, consistently, than hemming for bi-weekly or weekly and missing a week every now and then on a regular basis, because that's something which doesn't go very well with your audience, as far as I know.
And
yep.
never ever think it gets easier either. Like I'm moving. I'm leaving. Well, I'm in the process of leaving my 40-hour a week, 10-hour commute job and when I'm streaming, I'm live for 36 hours a week, and I spend at least another 30 arranging streams, sorting out overlays, sorting out videos. It's not easier. What Chelsea says about creating content, it's also about doing all the background work as well to support that content, all the structure, all the groundwork. You can have a D&D stream with no players, but then it's just a talk. It depends what you want to throw out there.
Here's something else I'll tell you too. Design for me was really daunting when I came in, needing an overlay and a this here and a that there. Remember that other people do that. There are character artists. There are graphic designers. There are people that record film, that edit audio. Create yourself a network of people that work together to make. If you're really going to go professional, you're never going to be able to do it on your own.
But be respectful.
Yes, absolutely.
These are real qualification. It's real work. So you might end up in a win-win situation where everybody's behind the project and is gonna bring their brick to the wall. But this is stuff which got an actual quotation mark, financial value. It is work. It takes time. It takes skills.
It does.
And it needs to be respected. So don't go there expecting someone's gonna draw something for you
for free. And that's so it. I think that there are other ways. I mean, obviously, if you can pay them, pay them. It's simple as that. Pay your artist and pay the people. But if pay is not an option, a lot of people that do character art also want a game.
Yeah.
What does it mean to create a cast of people that maybe you have an artist that does your art and you've got the sound editing person? Like, create yourself a group of people that have a similar goal in mind for something and see what that does for you, because you will wear yourself ragged. And Scrat and I know if you try to do it all on your own.
Do your A team. I mean, you've got your.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy. Get your A team.
We don't need an A team actually. Do your party. You need a tank. You need a controller. You need a magician. You need all of that. It's the same. I mean, it's the same for actual play at least. I'm conscious of the time, especially for the fellows for who it's 3:30 in the morning.
That's true, yeah.
Pros and cons about actual play, sort of just before our conclusions and our plugs, etc. Or are there any questions? Think about that while I'm checking the questions.
Yeah.
No questions.
Let's say I didn't see any other questions come through. Last chance for questions, crew.
I did see one from Archmage Derek way back, but we answered it.
Oh, did we? Okay. For me, I don't really have a whole lot of cons. I have found a home broadcasting on Twitch, whatever it is that I'm doing. Like today, one of the most viewed streams that I've done in 6 months was putting my vampire character together live on stream, which is so silly, but people showed up. I guess they wanted to see it. So I always forget that I love it. I love it so much. So for me, there are no cons. When I'm creating content and I'm hanging out with all of you online, whether I'm playing games, video games, tabletop RPGs, if I'm doing cosplay, or maybe I'm just doing a Gen Con review, which I did last week. We just did a Gen Con like decompress game or stream. It is what I know that I'm meant to be doing. So for me, the cons don't really exist. The biggest con, I guess you can say, is that I'm always tired. Little Red Dot is always tired. So
Yep,
I'm just always tired. That's the con.
I totally agree. No, I was just totally agreeing. I was just nodding along. Always tired. Yep.
Always tired. Oh, that's
tired.
a good question, Rem.
What's the question?
When's the last time you played a tabletop RPG in person without a camera or mic in front of you? Do you think people who broadcast maybe need to take a break and go back to the roots to refresh? Yes. My podcast, obviously we play IRL with mics in front of us and around a table. But, at Gen Con, which was just this past weekend, I played a game around a table with a group of people without mics, without an audience, and for the first time in a long time. And it was so refreshing. I had a freaking blast, just as much fun as I do on camera, which is how I know that I'm doing really what I'm supposed to be doing.
For me, though, that question goes in a completely different direction. It's not about just doing it. It's not about, do you think you should grab some dice and go and play? Well, you know what? I live in the countryside. The factory, like I say, it took 6 months to get a group, and then we didn't work. I don't have that opportunity. So for me, this is a gateway into being actually able to play anyway. The channel I'm running is the way that I can play. And you know what? As we go into this more and more, maybe we'll start putting budget aside to come and do things like Gen Con and stuff. But at the moment, that's a flight over to America. We'll probably be going to Dragon Meet later this year. I think there's another one going on in October, which...
What do you mean, probably? You are coming to Dragon Meet. There's no question about that.
Going to Dragon Meet.
I got big projects for you.
Ooh.
Some projects involving maybe some live streaming. That would be a first and something quite nice.
It's definitely interesting. Take it from somebody. I did that in IRL game that we mic'd and streamed from Gen Con this year. That was a special cookie.
Yep.
It's a lot of tech. Yep.
But we've got good technicians. That would be a cross.
That's good. Yeah.
Cross shows. I think it would involve at least 3, if not 4 shows in the thing. So yeah, but yeah, sorry. I think that's another subject. But because of the podcasting and the network, the RPG Academy network, and Acadec Online, which was the first attempt this year of having a convention online. I played more games online, and it's quite interesting. I can definitely see in time of my life where I didn't have players or game masters around, how much it would have been great to have that. And and seriously, if for people who didn't try it, I recommend trying it because it's actually much better than you would expect. And I personally think that some things can be not as good, but some other things can be better in an online games in terms of different little things, concentrations, etc. And so yeah, great. Anything to add, Scrat?
No, on that topic, probably not so much.
So your big pro
Yeah,
is that it allows you to play then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, my big pro is that it allows me to play, and
Yep.
also it's a great outlet for me in terms of being able to. I suppose Chelsea identified it earlier. I do take an outlet in teaching people. It's how I learn. Always been the way. So yeah, I get a lot of satisfaction from it. Cons, I mean, who needs sleep anyway?
But the
Just plug me in the wall.
I go for the my own pro. My con would be when I do play a game which is not recorded. Afterward, I'm like, oh, I wish it had been recorded so I could listen back to it, experience it again. But then I'm a podcaster, so even the game I record, I personally feel I should need to edit it, and it's impossible. So if you want to have a go at editing, I got a few games of Mask RPG which you could be your 101, and I would give it away to my patron. Sorry, little red.
No. So you made me think of something that I'll say, and now I've lost my train of thought. Oh crap! It was my cat's fault. What was it? It was
I also
Doesn't matter.
had something there.
Go
Like,
for
when
it.
you said that,
I botched it.
it made me. It made. It
Me
made
too. I was like, oh, light bulb.
It made me 100% think. So my wife is a photographer. She spends her career capturing images of beautiful things. She spends very little time appreciating beautiful things. There's a slight definition change there, you know. I can't remember the last time that we went out on a misty day and just like enjoyed a misty day. It was, oh, look at that! Oh, this is gonna be great because it looks like like, you know, just sometimes you have to just leave the camera at home, which we do every now and again, and just go for a walk.
It's less active recording. I mean, it's there, it records. You don't need to frame it, etc. Well, in the same time, you're right, because when I do record now, I've got a mixing table, etc. I do have the helmet, and I'm looking at the level. So you're actually right with that, but it's not as severe, I would think, photography. No, my pro is the people I met. I mean, if you go with a simple pro, it would be like, oh, I got a press pass to go to something, but it's not so much actual play. It is, but for me, it's more. It's my podcast discussions. It's the big excuse to engage with someone and ask them questions. So that would be the podcast. But then actual play, I think the show is a great excuse for, oh, I've seen that other player in that other actual play. I would love so much to play a game with Senda from She's a Super Geek, or Phil Vecchione, or Michael from the RPG Academy, and the show allowed me to do that. It allowed me to join the RPG Academy and then to join game with them and record episodes with them, play games with them. I mean, Scratticus, you invited me to one of your games, and I cannot wait to join another one. Little Red Dot. If you need anything from anyone, if you want someone to play Vampire or anything, don't hesitate. And,
Okay,
and
cool.
I mean, I've been blessed with having access to, I mean, the opportunity of playing games with the authors. if you do a decent game, actual play show, you're gonna have people. There's gonna be crowdfunding season, and you're gonna have authors lining to be on your show for you to run their game or them to run their game and you to play it. I tell you, all one-shot RPG. I don't know about Encounter Roleplay, Misdirected Mark podcast. All those people are also authors of games, and when crowdfunding or Jim McClure, when they're doing a game, they do the round of all the podcasts. They're gonna ask to all of them, all the decent one, all the one they enjoy or they hear are good, and they're gonna ask then the producer of those shows, hey, can I be on your show to promote my game and we play a game together? I mean, that's amazing. I mean, someday I receive an email from Monty Cook Games telling me, would you like to interview Monty Cook? And I was like, Monty Cook? I love Legends of the Five Rings, because I don't know anything and I confuse people. So Monty Cook don't do Legends of the Five Rings. But yeah, that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna be part of the community and you're gonna have amazing games with amazing people. So, time for the conclusion of the show. Thank you so much, Dot and Scratticus, for joining my very first stream. It's going to be the first and the last for quite a while, because I was taking the opportunity of being without a job, because I don't have close enough the dedication of Scratticus to do this sort of things while I'm working the next day. So yeah, we're gonna drop the what are you reading, what are you gonna read. I think you are keen to go back to bed, Scratticus. So I am Kalum from the Rolistes Podcast, a proud member of the RPG Network. I am the Rolistes Podcast is the show of tabletop RPG fans across the channel, because I now live in London, but I used to be on the other side of the channel, across the pond, because it's lovely to engage with all the US audience and beyond, because sometimes there's people in Brazil who don't tell me who they are, or even people in Japan who listen to us. And so if you want to hear about the community and different hobbies, different people from different countries and different games, that's the place to go. And we got a few actual play episodes, like my favorite one, Nephilim, a French role-playing game, and it's just a 3-parter, so it's very fast to consume. Scratticus, what is your final plug?
So I am Scratticus over at the Scratticus Academy. We're playing D&D every day this week. We've got tomorrow, I'm over on Encounter Roleplay. I'm playing Dr. Hezekiah Shaw in the Larkspur sequence. Then that's at 1 to 4 p.m. EST. Then at 6 p.m. EST, I'm going to do a prep stream where I'm going to prep a module for our 8 p.m. EST stream, where we're going to be playing with 3 brand new people to the channel and 1 old face, but they've not been around very often. It's NNG9, Alicia from The Vice, if any of you guys recognize. Friday, we've got another one-shot at 4 p.m. EST. That one-shot is going to be a playtest of a new game designed specifically for children. It's called Power Outage, and it's designed by a chap known as Babas on Twitter. His Kickstarter is currently 75% funded, and we're hoping to push him the rest of the way. On Saturday, we have the Academy Open Day. 4 games, 12 hours live streaming in a row. We're going to start more than 12 hours, because before we start, we're going to have Tool School for Coffee. 7 a.m. we're going to start. We're going to do 3 hours of Tool School's new module from his new publishing company that he does with Bird in the Storm, called Bird in the Storm. So we're going to be doing that. At 10 p.m. we get Space Cthulhu with Jonathan Fry. At 1 p.m. we get D&D 5e with Renee Rhodes from Fate and Fable Maidens. And then at 4 p.m. I'm going to play some Cypher System. And then after all of that, we are going to talk about players in the games and what you need to do to turn up as a player in a game, which is going to be very exciting stuff. Monday, we have... Oh, no, hang on a minute. I missed that Sunday. Sunday, we're doing another one-shot. Sunday, we're doing more one-shots. Monday, we're doing City of Mist. Tuesday, we're doing Wizards and Wardrobes. It's going to be fun. And, of course, on Wednesdays, we have one-shot wonders for KNRS. Thank you. I'll put my links in chat.
Wow.
And there's more coming. Next season, we've got even more. We've got 2 shows a day. It's great.
I don't know, BSO, I just mute him. Dot, can you tell us about, what's your plug?
Yeah. So I'm Little Red Dot. I play a crazy amount of RPGs, though clearly not as many as Scratticus, because he is wearing that gold medal proudly at the moment. No, I play actually not just on my channel, on a lot of other people's channels. So you can check me out tomorrow, starting the closing of 3 games of the Trials of Ball over on Encounter Roleplay. On Saturdays, now you can catch me. We actually have the premiere of the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition coming to roll for it this Saturday. I'm really super duper stoked about my character. Like I just can't wait to kill things as a vampire. So exciting. Mondays, you can catch me over on Nerd Immersion's channel as we finish up and play through the Princess of Apocalypse. And then those are kind of my regulars at the moment. Sundays, on and off throughout the months, you will catch me and a crew, just kind of like Scrat, of random players playing through one-shots over on Sunday Fun Days. I will be starting a D&D campaign with Unmade Gaming. Starting in September. And in September, I'll also be DMing a show on Saturday evenings on the Greyhawks channel. So you can come check me doing hardcore D&D. A lot of you have been asking for that. And I was like, you know what? I ought to give you guys what you're asking for. So,
what is that?
Maps and a little bit, I know, hardcore, like a little bit more structured and not so like free form one shots. Like I'm going to be running a full on campaign. I've actually been eyeballing a few old school D&D 3rd edition modules that I may be bringing back into the 5th edition realm. So he and I are kind of chatting about that right now. So I've got a lot of stuff coming specifically in the fall, and you can be expecting a slew of Fate core coming to my personal channel. So if you've ever wanted to learn Fate, you can join me on my Discord and tell me about it, and I'll get you added to one of the cast. You can get to my Discord by visiting my Twitter. Oh, it deleted my link, but I have a Twitter. It's _red_dot. Find me there.
It's on top of your head.
It's on top of my head, is what I've been told. So follow me there. Check me out. You can find my Discord and all that kind of stuff. That way you can keep up with what I'm doing. And I've recently, like I said, launched a Patreon, which has been a pretty exciting thing for me because it means I'm now writing a lot more content. And when you become part of the Little Red Dot Army, which all of you that join the Patreon are, you start getting access to all of my writings, my character sheets, and everything that I create for you to use at your own table. So again, that like shared system. So yeah, come out and join me in what I do, which is I eat, sleep, and breathe tabletop RPGs, people.
Hell yeah!
I forgot to mention that about my own Patreon. At the moment, it's RPG a day, and I'm always keen to find the ideas of doing stuff from the people supporting the show via Patreon. If you join the Patreon of the Rolistes Podcast this month, there are 31 mini episodes, one coming out each day, because each day with one of my co-hosts, we are answering the question of RPG a day. So if you want to hear about our favorite recurring character and all this excellent, if you don't know that, RPG a day 2018, hashtag RPG a day 2018 by Autocratic. It's a very cool thing to follow on Twitter with a set of questions, one per day, all through the month of August. Are you participating in RPG a day, Dot and Scrat? You're too busy.
Hey man,
I was about to say, I'm already doing an RPG a day.
Yeah, I'm doing more than one a day.
It's a question. It's not an actual.
I know. Yeah, it's like there's like a Twitter post or something about it. Clearly, I'm not cool at all. Not even in the uncool of. I'm not even cool in the uncool stuff. Yeah, I have no idea. I'll have to find that at RPG a day.
Yeah,
we're not even nerd cool.
With okay. It's by one of the gentlemen who wrote the Doctor Who RPG, very fine fellow from the UK. So I'm gonna close with the stuff for the RPG Academy network itself. Just stay there and so we can discuss afterward together. But I'm gonna remove you. So you were watching the RPG Academy. Everything we do on the RPG Academy, we do it out of a passion, but we do have expense, and the RPG Academy has got a Patreon also, which you would be very welcome to support many bonuses. If you happen to be in the US or willing to travel to the US, there will be AcadeCon, the convention of the RPG Academy, which will take place from November 9 to November 11th at the Dayton Convention Center in Ohio. I hope I pronounced that well. Check acadecon.com for the details. Also, the next episode of our RPG Academy film studies to be recorded is going to be about G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. So if you have anecdotes or if this movie inspired you characters of scene in a tabletop RPG, please do send your tweet and emails to the RPG Academy so we might discuss that during the recording. Thank you very much. It was my first stream, so let me know how it was, and I hope to see you back on the network quite soon. Kalum from London out.